Hello, people. Andrew here, talking about comics from a reader, collector, speculator, investor point of view, in that order of importance to myself. And today I'm talking about a book called Black Summer, released by Avatar Press in the year 2007. Avatar Press was founded in 1996 by William A. Christensen, and specialized. Its forte happened to be bad girl comics such as Lady Death, violent comics such as this one, Black Summer, as well as some licensed products like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Nightmare on Elm Street. What is Black Summer about? Well, it's a story about a group of heroes called the Seven Guns. And they've been doing good in the world for a certain amount of time, taking it upon themselves. There are no super villains that's even referenced in here. But anytime that there's a deed that needs to be done, a good deed, stopping this conflict here or that conflict there, the Seven Guns would be there to, make things better for everybody. But of course, as time goes on, what the Seven Guns determine to be good is not necessarily going to be reflective in what the public considers to be good. And so they're sort of a little bit ostracized, a little bit cast out. They fall a little bit out of favor. Where we begin with this, with issue number 0, John Horace, who is the most powerful of the Seven Guns, think Superman level of power, decides that the current American administration is filled with nothing but war criminals and profiteers, looking out for their own self-interests rather than the interests of the country. So on this day, and you can see it on the cover here, he executes the president, vice president, and a number of members of his cabinet. And announces to the public at large, says, okay, I don't want to take over the world, but I want you to have some more free elections and elect better people, people who are actually concerned about the welfare of the country and not themselves. Well, this sends things into a bit of a turmoil, and we're looking at a reaction and response by the remaining members of the Seven Guns, as well as the remaining members of the American government, military and other factors as well. That's the premise of the story. It's written by Warren Ellis, and Warren Ellis, I do like Warren Ellis's material. I've read some of it, not a ton of it, but some of it. I'm currently reading bits and pieces from his Thunderbolts run, which I'm really enjoying. But he also wrote The Authority. He wrote Next Wave, a quirky thing from Marvel, and he has some critical acclaim. Some of his work has been adapted into film or television. I'm thinking of Red was his story, and it was developed into a film. So he's a good writer, and he tells a good story. He's good with character, and he's good with pacing, and that's evident in this particular series as well. I'm just going to flip through some of these covers because there's only 8 of them. This is issue 0. The art is by what's his name again? Oh yeah, Juan Jose Rip, who I'd never heard of before picking up this particular series. And I like what he does. He's got a lot of line work. It can be very busy. You can see this from part of the cover here that it looks kind of busy. But he's good with human anatomy, and I don't just mean just showing a particular a stoic pose or something. But he understands how muscles work. So the actions that the various characters take are actions that a human body could take. He's also good with expressions in facial expressions to indicate mood or thought, and it's evident in his work as well. I really do like his work here. He's gone on to do other material, and he has illustrated some Batman books and some Wolverine, and I'd be interested to see what he does with those characters with his style of artwork. Is it worth the read? Well, I'm going to go on to another book. The whole story of the idea of the superhero who believes that because they have the power, they have the right to affect the changes that they see are important or good or whatever. And it's been done before. Watchmen has elements of that in the story itself. There's the whole Squadron Supreme by Marvel, and its sort of ultimate lineup supreme power. Even The Boys, runs along that particular line as well. And all of those books I found to be more interesting and entertaining than Black Summer. Now, that may take away a little bit from Black Summer, but I still enjoyed reading Black Summer. I enjoyed that particular line. I think the characters of the Seven Guns were interesting. I think the way that their story was told, both from the past and into the current, the present, was very interesting. I like the character design that Juan Jose Rip created for these characters, and I like some of the development of the story. One of the questions that will come up is it too graphic? Because, as I said, Avatar is big on the whole sex and violence type of thing. And yeah, you could argue that it's very graphic, because when these guys unleash their superpowers, they are extremely powerful, and they blow limbs off and holes through chests and things like that. And the art does not shy away from that. It shows all of that, that destruction, that chaos. So it is very graphic in that respect. Is it over the top graphic? I think, again, partly because he's got a good idea of anatomy, that it's not. I don't know if it's excessive. I don't know that it's. I would call it excessive. It borderlines on the excessive, but it depends on where your level is of what you find. I find that perhaps there was maybe one or two pages too long on some of these battles, where it would just seem to be like a showcase a little bit for that kind of graphic depiction. But I think what was good about it is to let you know that, hey, these guys really are just tearing apart one another in these battle scenarios. It isn't just a simple pop and then the guy drops to the floor. It's very gruesome and it's very brutal. And I think that was part of the intention of this as well, is to show how brutal this conflict was. So I found, your opinion on graphic violence will waver. Some people may find it just too extreme for them. I didn't find it too extreme. I could accept it for what it was, and I was fine with that. So again, is the story worth the read? It is worth the read. As I said, I liked the character development. I like it, and by the time we get to the end of the series, which I'm getting there, there's a little bit about philosophy that's added in, and there's bits and pieces of philosophy added throughout here as well, about the power and what that means and what to do with that power. And you are the superhero today, but if you act upon your own whims and desires, does that make you the villain of tomorrow? So I did find some of that discussion, especially in the final issue, to be interesting, and interesting take on things. I did not realize that this was that Warren Ellis wrote 3 series that talk about superheroes in this kind of fashion. There's this one here, Black Summer, and in his words, it's a story about superheroes, or superhumans who are all too human. And then he wrote a second series called No Hero, which is about superhumans who are inhuman, and then a third series called Super God, where superhumans are no longer human; they're something else. So I would like to read the follow-ups to this issue, this series, which would indicate that I enjoy this series if I'm interested in reading what comes next. I don't think it involves the same characters, but it's going to be Warren Ellis's take on those particular themes. So I'd be interested in that. As far as a collector, well, like so many small storylines on these independents and what have you, it has been optioned for film, but that means virtually nothing these days until it comes. And even if it was, would people be scrambling around looking for issue 0 of Black Summer? And that's the one you would get, because that's the introduction of all of the characters. But I don't think that there'll be any mad scramble to get that particular book. I don't see that happening. But you'll pick it up as your collection for Warren Ellis, for this Juan Jose Rip, whose artwork I really like. If you wanted to complete your Avatar press collection, it would work for that. And here's the final issue here. So that's where the collecting would be. As far as spec and invest, again, I would say no for the speculation and investment. You can, I haven't seen these in the dollar bin. Publishing run would have been when small, but I checked online to see how to buy these sort of things, and there's like you can get the whole set, all 8 issues for $20 to $30 online. So it's not an expensive set. I don't see it, becoming an expensive set. I don't see any reason to grade any of this material and store it that way. Interesting, the variant covers. They did a ton of variant covers for Black Summer. There's probably about, the 8 issues plus another 16 or 17 variant covers for all of the titles combined. And this is the thing that I have with speculating on variant covers. Does anybody even remember Black Summer? And does anybody remember any of the variant covers? And sometimes you would be paying a little bit more for that variant cover. So I stay away from variant covers. And even in the back of these comic books, there's 3 pages of current material released by Avatar Press that has multiple variants, some 5 or 6 copies of Lady Death doing this or whatever in this particular variant cover. And I'm not going to be the one to speculate and invest on that sort of thing because I just think it's such an unsure market. And especially not with the Black Summer. So I don't think that there's much in the way of speculation or investment for Black Summer. I think you're just buying it because you want to read this story, and it is a decent story written by Warren Ellis, and I do like the artwork by Juan Jose Rip. So, and the theme of the story of the superhero that maybe goes a little too far. All that combined, I do recommend this read. I think it's not going to be for all people. I think some of the illustrations might offend some people, and I think some people might just find that the story has a couple of holes that they're not really willing to go along with. And find that the story is, as I said, this type of story has been told before and it's been told better. So there may be some hesitancy to read this story. Anyways, that's it for Black Summer. Uh, that's all I have to say about that, and I want you to be good to yourself and be good to others, and, we'll talk again soon.